welcome to another episode of Mind Matters with Kay. Today we are speaking with Lynette Trawick, founder and CEO of Beyond My Diagnosis. How are you today, Lynette?
I am fantastic. I'm excited that we finally get to do this together.
Yes, we've been trying for months. People don't realize that we've been trying for months.
Yes, busy schedules, but productive. So I'm
Yes,
excited. I'm
yes.
excited for this conversation.
And we're finally here. So that's really all that matters.
Yes.
Timing is everything. And our time is now. So I am very excited about having this conversation with you. Um, if you would like, I'm going to give you the floor to kind of give the viewers an idea of what brought us together.
Sure. Yes. So I do HIV and AIDS advocacy. That's my main thing. And I am the founder and executive director of IMU Inc. Beyond My Diagnosis is our annual event. It's our charity event that we have coming up. So I am also living with HIV. So it is almost 15 years that I've been living with this diagnosis. And that is what kind of started, the journey. And I know posting different things like that kind of sparked your interest to, see how our worlds can meet and how we
Yeah.
can, touch more lives and expand our reach together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I thank you for sharing that because a lot of people wouldn't share that, their diagnosis. HIV is a very serious situation, but it's one that people don't really talk about because people
Yeah.
are either ashamed or they don't want people to know. Approximately, I think it was 39 million people since 2022 are living with HIV.
Mm-hmm.
Is an
Mm-hmm.
incline from 2010. I think it was 31.5 people, but now it's up to 39 million, and that was in 2022. So now, I'm
Yes.
sure that number has, went up.
Yes.
So you said that you are the CEO, executive founder of Beyond My Diagnosis.
Yes.
So the backstory. So you
Well,
said,
well, I am you Inc. I
oh,
am you. I am you. Beyond My Diagnosis is our event.
oh, girl, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Listen, it's okay. They're both our brands, so it's okay.
Okay. So you and I did a little, talking outside of the studio, and I
Mhm.
know that you were diagnosed in
Mhm.
2008.
Yes.
So how did you handle the news of being told that?
So let me set the scene first of all. I was 26, a single mom at the time, working, going to school, dating, just living life. And to get news like HIV,
Yeah.
it was completely unexpected.
Yeah.
I remember I went for an annual exam, and the next day got a call, hey, you need to come in the office, and that was the news that they broke to me. So it was it shook my world.
Yeah.
If I had to try to put it into words, because where does that fit?
Yeah.
It was something that wasn't talked about in my community. So I didn't handle it well in the beginning.
Yeah.
Didn't know how to. I was dating someone at the time. Didn't know how to tell him. Had to figure out how to tell my family. All of these different how to tell my children.
Yeah.
All and what in the world do I do from here?
Right.
So it was a roller coaster. It has been a roller coaster. It is a roller coaster. But in the beginning, it was devastating.
Yeah. I could imagine. I really could imagine, but you're strong because you said you've been living with it for 15 years and you're still vibrant, you're beautiful, you're active, so that makes a lot of the difference because some people would have just crawled up into a ball and just literally died. Because I
Yeah,
think that with certain diseases like, HIV or cancer or things, etc. I
yeah.
feel like it more so becomes mind over matter at that point because
Very
it's
much so. It's
mentally
very
tough.
much more mental than
Yeah,
it is. Thankfully for me, it was much more mental than it was physical. That's not everybody's story, but
this is true.
yeah,
This is true. Do you have any idea of how you contracted HIV?
I do. I was actually in a relationship previously,
Mhm.
and it was an abusive relationship. I knew, he was abusive. I knew what he was doing outside of the home. I was monogamous. He wasn't. Um, and we had actually just separated July of 2008, and I
Oh,
was diagnosed in November 2008.
whew. I
Yeah.
think I would try to murder him.
Thankfully, by that time we weren't together. We had no contact or anything.
Okay.
So I didn't even want to revisit, because of the trauma that
Yeah.
I had experienced within the relationship. That wasn't even something like I don't want to look for you. I don't want to, I don't want to do any of that. Like some years later, I did wind up reaching out to him, like, hey, just wanted to let you need to go get tested, make sure you're doing what you need to do, things like that. And I can't say to this day, but by that, as of that conversation, he denied that he was positive. So that's why my big push is always for everyone to get tested themselves,
Right.
as well as getting tested with your partner, because you never know what they're hiding.
Absolutely. Because again, this is stuff that people will hide.
Yeah,
The fact that you're transparent says a lot about your character because
yeah,
there are people who go to jail for that know they have it and actively spread it without
yes,
disclosing that. So again, I really feel like that speaks a lot to your character because that really takes a person to be brave,
yeah.
and I think that this person that you were just speaking of, he's in denial. Like I wonder if he knew he had it all along and just didn't say anything.
I honestly don't think he did.
Okay.
I don't know. Something inside of me tells me that he didn't know,
Okay.
but he also was just out there doing his thing without wearing protection. So you never know,
True.
especially if you're not going to go get tested for anything. And it's not just
Yeah.
HIV. And even in that relationship, unfortunately, HIV wasn't the first STI that he brought home.
Mm,
So, it was a pattern, but I was mentally stuck in that relationship,
yeah. Yeah. With
due to
abuse.
just other traumas.
Yeah. Yeah. That's deep. It's
Yeah.
deep. Do you think like when you told the present guy you were with, how did he handle the news?
Um, Back then I would say not well, because he told me that he couldn't stick around. He didn't know enough about HIV and he wasn't really willing to learn anything about it. Now, the person that I am now, I can appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't educated. He just, it just was like, listen, it is what it is. I'm sorry to hear that. I'm still here for you as your friend, but we can't do any of this, nothing that has to do with dating,
Yeah.
because he wasn't ready for it.
Right.
So it just, it hurt, because a lot of people, I share that fear with a lot of people of isolation. We all want to be with shit. We want to be with somebody and have a partner. So now here's this first person I tell, and he's leaving.
Right.
So what do I do with that moving forward? Do I continue
Exactly.
to tell? Do I hold it? Do I?
Yeah. That could be paralyzing, because
Very much.
that reaction that he gave you, again, you were probably thinking that everyone will isolate you after that point.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a fear that I think a lot of people have that they just don't speak about.
Yeah, very much so. And then you have to think about like different states have different criminalization laws. So I know you mentioned earlier about people being arrested for not disclosing their status. That varies from state to state. So you even have to know the laws depending on where you are. If you shouldn't disclose, it's so much even involved in that.
Really.
Um, yeah, and everybody can actually Google state HIV laws, and for each state it'll come up as well saying what's allowed, what's not. Some are even as crazy as if someone living with HIV spits on someone, they can be arrested.
Right. Right. Because that's a
You know,
bodily fluid, right?
but saliva is not even HIV is not transmitted through saliva,
It's
but it's
transmitted
still a
through.
law that so it's that these criminalization laws, a lot of them are outdated, a lot very much
Yeah.
outdated.
Yeah.
um
Because
you
people
know
don't know. People don't know. You
they
think
don't.
spit, it's a bodily fluid. But there are various ways in addition to sexual or intimacy or what have you.
Hmm.
Some people are born with it.
Hmm.
Could you detail some of the other ways people can contract HIV? Dirty
Yeah, so
needles.
definitely some people are born with it. A big one is intravenous drug use, so sharing needles. That's why you see a lot of these needle exchange places popping up. But sharing needles is another one. And one used to be breastfeeding. However, those,
Really?
yes, used to be breastfeeding. So women living with HIV were not not even not advised to breastfeed. They were like, you better not, or you can face criminalization charges as well.
Mm.
So if a woman was living with HIV and they told some of their doctors, some doctors, they would tell them, we're going to call DHS. We're going to have your kids taken away. But the regulations have changed. So you can actually look those up on the CDC website.
Okay.
And now women are being supported through whatever their choice is, whether it is breastfeeding or bottle feeding, formula feeding. So yeah, that's definitely a big one, especially for women who are still in, what do you call it, childbearing years.
Yeah, but does HIV transfer to a child through breastfeeding?
It can, but the percentage is extremely, like 0.0001 or something like that, especially when a person is especially when the mother is undetectable, because when you are undetectable, you're untransmittable. So it started out with sexually. So it's undetectable equals untransmittable. If I'm undetectable, I cannot transmit HIV sexually to anyone.
Really?
So that's what started some of the research as well. It's like, well, if I'm undetectable that way, why can't I breastfeed my child? So it's this, similar percentage when it comes to sexual transmission. If you're telling me it's safe enough to go ahead and have sex, why can't I feed my child, especially knowing all the benefits of breastfeeding?
Right. But so if the woman just had a child and she's HIV positive,
mm-hmm.
So again, like I'm very new to this, so excuse me if I sound ignorant.
That's fine.
But like I'm intrigued by this because these are a lot of the things you're saying I had no idea even was a thing. But when a woman has a child, so obviously the child doesn't always come out with the virus.
Nope. It's very rare now, especially if the woman is on medication. Extremely rare.
So she has to really be on medication in order for that.
So if she's been in care, she's been taking her medication, she's been getting her lab work done. I've had children since my diagnosis, and my children are HIV negative. My husband is HIV negative. So, so as long as that woman is in care, they can have an HIV negative child.
That was definitely my next question, because I was going to say, I know you're married with children. And you and Daniel were actually friends first before you guys,
for 5 whole years.
5 whole years.
5 whole years.
So at what point did you tell him about your diagnosis?
I told Daniel my diagnosis maybe 4 years. It was about 4 years after I was initially diagnosed. We were still, still friends at the time, still in relationships with whoever we were in relationships or situationships, I call them, with other people. So that's when I told him, and he has been one of my biggest supporters ever since, coming with me to doctor's appointments. He had the desire to learn all he could about HIV and how it impacts me first as his friend. And then when we started, we started dating and started our relationship, then those questions changed. Like, okay, how do I continue to make sure I'm safe? So still 10 years later, Daniel goes to get tested every 3 months to make sure he is staying HIV negative. They do have medication available called PrEP, which is pre-exposure prophylaxis. I kind of like loosely compare it to like birth control. So it's a pill that you have to take every single day to prevent an HIV diagnosis. However, we choose not to use PrEP, but it is a resource that is available for individuals to take if they do want to take that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm like speechless, and this typically doesn't happen because I'm all sinking in. Like I'm just trying to absorb, because this is something, and including myself, I don't know much about. I go get tested, and I to date, with the exception of you, I don't know anyone who is HIV positive, and I may know people,
or at least openly speaking about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm very intrigued, and I want to be educated on it, because you just never know what someone's dealing with and going through.
Yeah.
So
that's why I do this, to just normalize the conversation. We can have conversations about diabetes or high blood pressure or even cancer. So why can't we have a conversation about HIV?
Yeah, because people want to continue to do what they do without the repercussions or thinking about the repercussions.
Yeah.
So with today's society, with promiscuity being promoted, and unprotected sex being promoted, it's like a thing within the music industry, and they're like glorifying having sex with random men and a lot of people without protection. So what would
Mhm.
you say to those people?
Well, firstly, my big thing when it comes to HIV prevention is not just wear a condom or, limit your partners. My whole thing is really getting into just the mental portion of it. Why is this a choice that you want to make? Because some people choose to be sexually free, be sexually open,
Right,
but really get into the root of why. And if it's more of a self esteem issue or a confidence issue or a trauma response or something like that, really dealing with that portion of it so that the behaviors can stop. Now, if this is an honest choice and this is just something that's just fun to you or whatever the case is, fine, to each their own. However, protect yourself. Wear condoms, get tested with your partners. And it's not just HIV, you know, and it may sound real crazy, but I think I got it easy with HIV because there's some stuff out there that's real crazy that I would take HIV over any day,
right,
you know. So
right,
that's it's just really getting to the root of it and being careful not to judge people for their choices, because I know that's a thing too. People eh, and being careful, with the wording and all of that kind of stuff. Just understanding that people are people, and sometimes we just have to get to the root of it. And I know that too, especially working with the youth, because we're so quick to say, "Hey kids, be abstinent. Hey kids, wear a condom." But do they?
unrealistic.
First of all, do they know how to put a condom on?
Right,
While we're just saying, "Hey, wear a condom."
yeah,
Second, why are they choosing this behavior?
right.
So yeah,
I think a lot of people too, will see someone and be like, oh, well, they don't look like they have HIV, and they'll be like, oh, I think he or she's safe.
yeah,
Clearly looking at you, you're beautiful. You're not,
thank
there's a depiction, right, of
yeah,
what people think someone with HIV looks like: skinny, a person who's on substance, abuses substance,
hmm
things like that. But
yep,
people look healthy and regular, and people don't realize that.
yep, yep.
So the depiction that people have in their heads, I think, is also uh pretty much it's just an unsafe mentality to
It
have, because
is.
a person doesn't have to look like they have anything,
That's
you
right.
know
I
so
always emphasize, so HIV, the first word in it, the first letter is H, which stands for human. So if you're human, you
oh
have
yeah,
the potential to contract HIV. It's
yeah,
human immunodeficiency virus. If
yeah,
you are human, you have the potential to contract HIV. So it has no look to it. And that's, like you said, that is dangerous. And that is what, causes the rates to go up, which causes more transmission, because it's like, oh, it can't happen to me because I don't look like that.
yes, yes, yep,
I
yep,
don't look like what they show in the movies or some of these commercials.
yep,
I don't look like those people. So I'm not even gonna pay attention to this commercial. I'm
yep,
not even gonna pay attention to that's not happening in my community.
yep.
So
And people don't realize it happens a lot more often than it does not happen.
very much so. Very much so. And then the age group, the highest rising transmission group is 13 to 24 right now.
Really?
13 to 24.
Oh my God, that's so, yeah. I couldn't imagine what. And honestly, I think too, you said something. You said you're getting to the root of the problem. So mentally, a lot of these kids in inner cities that don't
Mm-hmm,
have parents and nothing to
mm-hmm.
look forward to, a lot of them are listening to this music. And I think they're taking what the entertainers are saying for
Yeah,
face value. And they're
yeah,
not being smart about it. They're young and they're like, oh, like you said, it can't happen to me. It doesn't happen here. She looked like she's safe. She's this, and people take that stuff lightly. Like, you literally have to be mindful. I mean,
mm-hmm,
like you said, people are human. People are going to make mistakes. You get caught up in the moment. Sometimes it happens to all of us. It has
mm-hmm,
happened to all of us.
mm-hmm.
However, you can't go around. People shouldn't go around with that perception of, I can look at you and tell that you are clean.
That's right. Clean. Oh my goodness. And that brings me to that's one of my trigger words, clean and dirty.
Yeah.
I know you probably heard people say this like, oh yeah, I just went to go get my STD check and my STD test and I'm clean. As opposed to what? Because mine came back positive. It didn't say dirty. Like I
Yeah,
washed it.
yeah, yeah.
But That's one of the things, but it's language that we tend to use without really thinking of it. Because I know I said it all the time before, like, "Oh yeah, I'm clean." I got checked last month. I'm clean.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
what does that even mean? you know. So yeah, trigger words. I'm telling you, it's just like full blown AIDS. That's another one. Oh my goodness. Do not use full blown AIDS. There is no such thing as full blown AIDS. It comes from the terminology comes from back when the epidemic first began.
Yes.
And once you hit that AIDS status, which I can explain a little bit too, that pretty much meant that, like, your immune system was depleted. So anything could take you out. That's
Yeah.
when people were really dying from pneumonia and, things like that, all types of cancers. But the difference between HIV and AIDS is literally just the difference between some numbers. So once your viral load, which is the amount of the virus in your system, drops below 200, you are considered as having an AIDS diagnosis at that point. However, especially with medication today and, in science and the doctors that are available, your numbers can go way back above 200 again. However, once you receive that AIDS diagnosis, you're always considered as having an AIDS diagnosis, but it's still all HIV. It's all HIV. It's just like all of this is HIV, and then this portion down here is an AIDS diagnosis, and you just need to start paying more attention to your immune system to boost it back up again.
Okay, so if you are HIV positive,
Mm-hmm.
it's possible to always remain HIV positive and not elevate to a level of AIDS.
Correct.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But if a person does,
Mm-hmm.
they're able to kind of backtrack and
Mm-hmm.
become HIV positive again. And just
Mm-hmm.
not.
So again, you're always HIV positive. It's just that once you hit that number, that below 200 zone, you're considered as having an AIDS diagnosis. You're still HIV positive, but you also have an AIDS diagnosis. But you can go back up to, past 200 again. So I know several people who have been living with an AIDS diagnosis for over 30 years.
Really?
And they are 100% healthy. Immune system strong, they're undetectable, they're married, they have children. Yeah.
This is like insane. It's very interesting because again, I think a lot of people, myself included, have this ideology of what HIV and AIDS is and looks like. So
Mm-hmm.
you would think, and to your point, I know growing up, like it brought me back to grade school when they were saying full blown
Yep.
AIDS, which
Yep.
is why a lot of people have that idea in their mind about it being full blown AIDS. And that meant
And that image that you have when you hear full-blown AIDS, this person is about to die.
exactly. That's exactly what I was about to say. They're on their
So
way
that's
out.
why we don't use it anymore, because that's not the case.
Insane. That is
Yeah.
insane. And they actually came. So I was in elementary school, and they had these 3 people come to the school to discuss HIV and AIDS with us. And I remember sitting in the auditorium, and they passed around needles, but they were like, closed up, sealed, they were brand new. And because and I'm most embarrassed to say this, but I have to be honest, and I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be open about, what I thought. Like when they were like passing it around, I didn't want to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
Because number
Mm-hmm.
one, I'm a child. I don't know any better. All I know is that you're saying you have AIDS and you touch this. I don't want to touch it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But people have to become comfortable with confronting their ignorance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And understanding that you can't contract HIV or AIDS by touching something or hugging someone.
That's right.
That's not how that is contracted. I know that
Listen.
now, but
Nothing gets closer to me than my husband or the child that I literally carried inside of my body. And no one's positive other than myself.
right.
You can't get closer than that.
Yeah.
So I always use myself as an example in situations like that, because that is still a misconception for some. And it was a heavy misconception. Like I think of pictures and movies that I see depicted from the 90s where you had the AIDS ward. You have all of the people over there in the AIDS ward, and anybody who entered that section was fully covered from head to toe because they didn't know.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So,
And the pictures they would paint too is like when a person is in the hospital and they have AIDS, they're in the bed, they have to be flipped over several times because their
yep,
body gets
the bed
sores and their
sores.
flesh starts falling off. And so it
Yep.
was like this big, like, oh,
It's
AIDS,
scary.
very, which is why I think a lot of people don't talk about it,
Yep.
because that's a scary arena to enter. Like, you don't want to think about your flesh falling off and body sores and body aches. You don't want to think that. But
Mm-hmm.
we have to educate ourselves so we know better, because when we know better, we do better. And we can also teach our children when we know. If they come to us asking certain questions that we don't have the proper knowledge, we have to be careful, because we can then transmit the old information that we were taught to them, and that's
That's right.
inaccurate. It's
Yeah.
evolving, like you said, with the technology and the medications and things of that nature. I know they also had it was like a clear Tupperware type of box, and they
Mm-hmm.
had like all these medications in it, and they're like, we have to take like 87 pills a
All
day.
throughout the day. Yep. In the
Like,
middle of the
yo,
night.
yeah,
Mhm. Yeah.
yeah.
I've had some friends that overcame that.
I
Yeah.
mean, is that accurate though? Do you have to take a whole bunch of pills
I
every?
don't. Some people still do. So it really, so those are what used to be called, or what are still called cocktails, where you have to take all of these different combinations of medications, and a lot of that is number one because I mean, and this is kind of medication in general, but number one, it's helping to boost your immune system. It's helping to lower your viral load. It's helping to increase your CD4, which are the ones that attack any viruses or anything in your body. So it's helping to do all of this stuff. And then sometimes, in addition to that, you need the medication that's helping with the side effects, right? Because the medication back then might make you nauseous. So now you need nausea medication. Some of the medication will make you have diarrhea. So you need medication for that. So that's like a lot of times when you hear about those cocktails and those combined drugs, that's what it is. But now, thankfully, I take one pill a day, just like a lot of people that I know. One pill a day. It's a combination of 3 medications in this one pill, and that's it.
and and it helps you to remain. Are you undetectable, or
I
is
am
it
undetectable.
okay?
Yeah, I am undetectable, and it helps me to remain undetectable. I do, like I said, know some people who still take a number of different medications. So it really just depends. Some people can become resistant to medications, which has happened to me in the past too. There are different classes of HIV medication, so it's not like a one size fit all. Everybody takes the same medicine. Different
Okay.
people take different ones. I was taking one at one point and I became resistant, which means that like my HIV is really smart. So my HIV learned what this medication did and kind of overtook the medication. So then when I went back to the doctor, I was no longer undetectable. My viral load had went up and it was like, okay, something's not right here. Let's figure this out. And we realized that I had become resistant and I had to switch medications. So because I became resistant to that medication, that takes out an entire class of medications that I will never be able to take.
Okay.
So that's also why we have to make sure we take our medicine every day, because when we start skipping,
Mhm.
that's when our body starts to learn how that medication works, and you can then become resistant to that class of medication too.
Our bodies are just unbelievably smart.
Insane.
Like,
Insane.
like as you're speaking, I'm like, how? And it's true. Like, your body, it really just, girl.
Yeah.
Um, so when you become all right. So you said that once the medication learned what your body, or what the medication did, your viral numbers went up. So
Mm-hmm.
when your numbers go up and the HIV returns, I guess, for lack of better
Mm-hmm.
words.
So the amount of the virus in my system increased at that point. So my viral load went up. The virus increased in my system.
Okay. And when that happens, are you now considered transmittable?
Yes, yes, because now I'm no longer undetectable. So yes, I can transmit HIV. But that doesn't mean that it automatically happens every time either. So my viral load can be high, and I can still be sexually active, and it's just kind of like if it happens that time or not.
Mhm. That's so ironic. So, do you have an answer as to why that is? Like, why it can be transmitted and sometimes it can't be transmitted? Like, what is the
Um,
science?
I don't know. I can't really explain the science behind it. There is definitely research and things that can, that can be looked up. However, yeah, it's just because I have all, this amount of virus in my system, it's easier to transmit it. But once I have it all the way down here, so undetectable is considered 20 copies of the virus or less. Some labs say 75 copies of the virus or less. But it varies. But about 20 copies or less of the virus in your system, very hard to,
Now, what exactly is copies?
It's just the amount of the virus in your system. So how many times the virus copied itself inside your system.
So it kind of like mutates in a sense?
Yep. It overtakes cells in your body.
Is it the white blood cells?
Mm-hmm. And that's why your immune system is depleted once your viral load is increased, because it's overtaken those fighter cells and it's harder to fight off any other infections, which is why you used to hear of people dying from pneumonia. Now, thankfully, most of us can fight off pneumonia, but something like pneumonia would take someone out back in the 90s.
Yeah. Quickly.
Couldn't fight that off. Like even regular colds, there are specific type of cancers that only impact someone who has been diagnosed with HIV. Really? And if you contract that specific kind of cancer, you're then automatically considered having an AIDS diagnosis too.
Really?
There's a specific list of cancers that happens.
Is that because the amount of virus has mutated?
It is. Yep. It's increased. Your fighter cells are low. That they're weak. They can't fight off whatever is coming in.
So Is it that they actually now do have AIDS, or is it just because of that specific cancer they're considered to have AIDS?
Now they're considered having an AIDS diagnosis.
Wow, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very interesting. So you said you have children.
Yes.
I know you have 11.
11
kids.
What is that? I don't know. I'm not a sports girl. What is that? A basketball team or football team or something? I don't know.
Both. You got cheerleaders too? You got cheerleaders?
Right. Yes. And most of them actually play sports too. So.
Wait, really?
Yes. I have a cheerleader. I have football players, basketball players, soccer players.
Okay.
Yeah.
Girl, you got it. You got it. So when you sat down with them to tell them, what were their ages? Excuse me.
The only one I honestly remember having like that kind of like conversation, like, hey, guess what? Mommy has HIV, was my oldest son, who's now 21. He was 7. And the only reason I chose to tell him at that time is because there's a summer camp that I wanted to send him to. It's called Camp Bright Feathers. And actually, Daniel and I volunteer at that camp every year now. This is year 11. We volunteered in August. And so it's an overnight camp for children who have been impacted by HIV, AIDS, and community violence. So they don't necessarily discuss it with the children until they're 14 years old. They don't discuss the reason that they're there. Is really just a week of summer camp. However, I was afraid that he would go to this camp and one kid would know why they were there and then tell him. So I decided to sit him down beforehand and explain to him in a 7-year-old version, Mommy has HIV. It just means that, I can get sick a little easier, but as long as I take my medicine, just make sure you help Mommy take her medicine, and we're good. That was pretty much it. I think everyone, like all the rest of the kids after that, it just kind of came up in conversation, or it's just their regular lives now. They know Mommy takes medicine. They'll be around a group of friends and, oh yeah, my mom has HIV. Like, it's just regular for us.
Really?
It's so regular. I remember my 16-year-old daughter came home one day. I think she was in 2nd grade. And she told me that a friend of hers came to school. She was crying. And she said, she sat down and she's so compassionate. This is this child. But she said she was crying. And Mommy, and I asked her what was wrong. And she told me she was scared because her mom told her she has HIV. Said, but I told her, it's okay. My mommy, you see her here every day. She has HIV too. And you see her and you like her and she's happy. So she was able to help console her
Yeah.
peer, because
Yeah.
it's a normal conversation in our house. I
Yeah.
don't say, and don't you go talking about it. Don't tell anybody. Talk about it. If somebody asks, tell them. Tell them to look me up. Google me. I mean, I live a normal, regular life, and that's why I also choose to make my social media pages public and everything, because, like, look me up. You'll see it's regular over here. You
Right.
know?
Yeah, I was going to ask that because you have, children in grade school, and I know that children can be extremely cruel sometimes.
Yeah.
So I know you said they speak about it freely now, and I think that because societal norms kind of changed a bit.
Mm-hmm.
But has your children ever came home and said that anybody like made fun of them or said something wrong or bullied because of it?
And I've even asked them, I ask them every once in a while, like, has anyone ever said anything, negative about? I think one of my sons once said something like, yeah, I heard your mom got AIDS. He was like, well, first of all, she doesn't have AIDS, she has HIV. And let me tell you the difference. And like, so he was able to just
get it right. Number one.
yeah, like, okay. And then it's like, okay, I heard your mom got HIV. Okay, and like,
Right.
so like I said, because it's such a normal conversation, I have a shirt that says, I have HIV, will you hug me? And I remember asking him, like, do you mind if I wear this shirt? I'm like, I don't care. Like, it's a normal thing.
Kids.
We have condoms sitting around, like, it's just normal pamphlets and stuff just around the house. They'll send my social media pages to their friends. Like,
That's awesome. The support that you get is amazing, and I
I
think
wouldn't have been able to make it this far without it. I
yeah,
wouldn't
I
have.
think that helps carry you because I'm sure you still have your down days as well, right? Because
Of course.
you're still human, although you're not allowing the virus to define you.
Mm-hmm.
You still are human, and you have human emotions. So I know that some days can be hard for you, but the difference in those days are the people who truly love you and support you, and that
Yes.
love and support you because they don't tell you that, they show it
That's
by
right.
right.
All the
So
time.
yeah, that's amazing. A lot of people don't have that, and mentally, like I know people will say, like if they had it, they don't want to know because
Mm-hmm.
mentally, it'll trigger them, and like they'll be so in their head that all they see is the virus, and eventually
Yeah.
decline instead of being like, listen, I have it, and it's not going to overtake me. This is what I'm going to do, X, Y, and Z.
Right.
It takes
And
a
that's one
strong person,
small portion of who I am. I
right?
got so many other things going on.
Right.
HIV that's not an issue. I take my medicine once a day and we just gonna keep it pushing. The only reason it's so big in my life is just because it's my ministry, it's my nonprofit, so I'm in service of every day
Mhm.
in the community. But outside of that, it ain't that deep.
I love it. I love your confidence. I love your assertiveness. Like that's really it. You like this. I think this interview is really going to resonate with some people who may have it and don't
Mm-hmm.
talk about it. I think that it's very informational, especially for me. I learned a lot about the cell count and what the difference of HIV and AIDS is and the cancers. Like, so this was eye opening, right? Like, I'm always very conscious because I'm like a germaphobe.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just funny about, different partners and stuff like that in its totality, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that's always been something in my mind because of growing up and being exposed, not really exposed, but having that those people come to the school. Like that's something that always stayed in the back of my head. It's
Yeah.
like you can't, and they didn't really look like it either. So knowing that you can't just judge a person like, oh, he has it or he doesn't have it, that's you're basically playing Russian roulette in a sense.
Yeah.
So you got to be mindful of who you allow to be in your bed and whether you guys are, if you decide to have unprotected sex, because you just really never know
Right.
what someone else got going on.
Go get tested. That
Yeah.
is the only way you can guarantee. Like, you can't even say, oh, well, she got tested and she's negative, so I'm good.
People
No.
do that all the
I
time.
know.
What
I
is
hate
that?
it.
What
I
is
hate
that? Like,
it.
okay, she got tested. That has nothing to do with you.
I hate
That
it so bad.
yes, that irks me. That
Like,
irks
and
me.
I've been healthy all of these years, so I know I don't have anything.
Yeah.
HIV does not impact people the same way. one person can contract HIV and just like immediately get sick. Another person, like thankfully, like me, I have never been sick due to HIV in all of
I
my
love
almost 15 years. Only like when I first contracted it, and that was honestly before I even knew.
it. Okay.
So I believe, and my doctors believe, I contracted HIV in March of 2008, but I wasn't diagnosed till November 2008 because in March, I was always generally a healthy person.
Mhm.
March, I got extremely sick. I had the flu, a stomach virus, my blood pressure was low, and I was dehydrated. And I had strep throat all at the same time, all at once. I went to the hospital. They treated each individual thing. I lost 15 pounds in a month because I
Mm.
couldn't keep anything down. Like it was horrible. But they treated everything. I was sick. I lost that weight. I was sick for about 2 months. And then I was over it. Like then that was it. So I didn't get tested. They didn't suggest getting tested, anything. They just gave me medicine for strep throat, stomach virus. Like,
So they didn't even test you at that point.
mm-mm.
Oh, I'm surprised.
Yeah. But knowing what I know that was when I converted, they call it seroconversion. So when I actually contracted HIV.
Yeah, because it sounds like the virus had introduced itself to your body, and our body naturally fights off certain viruses. So it sounds like there was like some type of fight going on.
The virus attacked my immune system.
Yeah.
So anything I was exposed to, that strep throat, that stomach virus, anything that I was exposed to where I could fight it off before, because again, I was always healthy, I couldn't now. But nobody ever thought, like, oh, she never had all of this stuff before. Let me check this.
Yeah.
It wasn't until later that year when I got
You
tested.
went for your annual, and then you. Wow.
Yeah.
So a day later, were you afraid? Like, did you think that's what they're going to tell you, or it was more
Not
so
even
like,
a faint thought at
really?
all. Nope.
Did you go by yourself?
I did. I thought I was pregnant. That's what I thought they were going to tell me. That in my head at that time, that was the worst that could happen. Oh my God, they better not say I'm pregnant.
Oh Lord, no, I'm pregnant.
That was the worst thing that they could have said. Like because HIV didn't exist in my world because I don't look like them people in the movies.
Right.
So why would I even think that?
Right.
Actually, a friend of mine said something the night before I called. I was like, "Yeah, girl, they keep telling me I need to come into this doctor's office tomorrow. I don't know what the problem is." And she bust out crying. I'm like, "What is wrong with you?" Oh my God, I never told you this, but my dad died of HIV, and I hope that's not. I was like, "What are you talking about?" Like, first of all, you never even told me that. But like in my head, I'm like, "That's your dad. That wasn't." You know what I mean? I don't know what your dad was into, but that's not me. I don't calm down. Let's stop crying. They're there. But
Super down.
I'll call you tomorrow when we got to talk about what to do about this pregnancy.
Right.
But
yeah. Wow. That is. So, your mother, is she still alive?
She is. My mom is living her best life. She lives in Costa Rica.
All right, now, Mom, I see you. I love it. So, how did you break the news to her, and how did she handle it?
I didn't tell my mom. I was diagnosed in November. I think I told my mom maybe February or March of the following year. I kept putting it off. I said I didn't want to tell her in November because that's Thanksgiving. I didn't want to tell her in December because that's Christmas. January is her birthday. So I think it probably was February when I came over her house, and she was still living here at the time. I came over her house and I just kind of told her, and also I wanted to wait a little bit until I learned a little more about how HIV in my body works, because I didn't want to be sitting there breaking down in front of her like, oh, you're dying. Yes, I'm dying. Like I didn't want that whole scenario. So, I was able to kind of articulate, and I take this medicine and I'm okay. Actually, I don't think I was taking medicine at the time. Because some years ago, they actually wouldn't put you on medication until your viral load reached a certain level, until they saw that it would drop below a certain level, then they would put you on medication. Because they also have something called elite controllers. So elite controllers stay undetectable and don't have to take medication. So, I believe that was the way of trying to see if you had to take medication then or not. So I just kind of told her, and let her ask whatever questions she wanted to ask, and that was it.
Yeah.
And
Did
she's
she
just been mom.
cry or?
She did. We both did. Because while I had a little bit of an understanding, I still didn't like it. I still didn't.
Yeah.
She's like, well, I don't think I'm dying from it. I take medicine every day, and then I had to stop her from calling me all this. You took your medicine? Did you go to the doctor? Did you? I'm like, Mom, we're not going to do this. I'm okay. I'm taking it every day. It's all right.
I got it, Mom. I got it. But as mothers, we get it, right? We definitely get it. Like, you don't ever want anything to happen to your children, ever. So to hear that news, I know that, it didn't only affect you, it affected your mother, your children. And, people
it affected an entire community. I couldn't work anymore at the time, because of the depression. Like it impacted so much. So that's why we say not just those who are diagnosed, but those who are impacted, which is the community, and people just don't even realize it.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do want to say that the advocacy that you do, your events that you host, I think that is an amazing testimony to what you've endured, and, just being open and transparent about something so hush hush. I think that you using your journey as an example to help other people is amazing. Like, it is absolutely amazing. And I thank you for educating me as well, because some of the stuff you said, I had no idea.
Yeah.
And I'm 40 years old, and I'm not afraid to admit that I was ignorant to the fact of some of the things that you said. Because if that's not my reality, people don't really go to seek out what that encompasses, right?
Mm-hmm. So, and that's why my work is to put it in front of people's faces. That's why I go stand on stages, or that's why I'm in regular rooms and people are like, well, why do you do the work? Oh, because I have HIV. But you already know me now. You see the work that I produce, you see all of this stuff. And now that takes away some of that stigma, takes away some of the sting of HIV.
It does. Because I'm gonna tell you, like, I actually stumbled across your page because I know your husband. With social media friends, and he had shared your live, and his caption, the caption read something to the effect of HIV, and I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I was being nosy, and you were on your Facebook and your Instagram, and you were talking about, and I'm like, when you said it, I'm like, oh my God, I've never encountered someone, even though it was virtual. I never encountered someone who has HIV. So, like, I was like, now I'm fishing, I'm watching, I'm paying attention, I'm listening. I start Googling. I'm like, I was intrigued because, again, this is not my reality. Right? So just to see someone who does not fit the depiction of what society portrays was another intriguing. I'm like, yo, she don't even look like. I wouldn't look at you and be like, yo, you know what I mean? So I was like, I really was taken back by it, and I had to deal with the fact that I was ignorant in that regard. Like, you know what I mean? So if I'm ignorant in it, I know that a lot more people are ignorant in it, and I couldn't wait to get you on so you could share your story and you could give not only myself but the people who are watching knowledge and kind of starting to change the perception of what HIV is, what it looks like, how it's contracted, how it's transmitted. You gave in 48 minutes, you've given a whole wealth of information. You took us to class, girl. Like, school was in session, and I love it. I love it. I thank you so very much. And I am going to be at your event November 18th. 2 of my girlfriends are coming with me.
Awesome.
So if you would like, before we end or close, I would like for you to share your event. So if people are watching, they want to also participate and attend. Unless, are you okay with that?
I am absolutely okay with that. So Beyond My Diagnosis is happening in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. So Philly, my hometown. And it's going to be on November 18th at a venue called A King's Cafe. But you can definitely go on my page. You can check me out on Instagram, imu.inc, which is right there. You'll see it. Or actually on my name too. So IMU is my nonprofit. Lynette.Trawick is my personal page, but it's public. Go ahead, take a peek, be nosy like Kay, and you'll learn some stuff.
Okay, so it's no reference.
But come on over, look at the page. But come on out. We have performers, we have storytellers, we have vendors, we have a live band, we have food, we have so many surprises. We have raffles. We have so much stuff. I can't even begin to tell you everything. You just have to come and experience it. Because it's definitely an experience. We have early bird tickets on sale right now, I believe until the 17th. Don't quote me on that. But if you go to the website, you'll see. And the early bird ticket also comes with a copy of my memoir, From Diagnosis to Destiny. So more information about my life, just a background look, inside peek at all of the different things that I've experienced between dating and marriage and children and all of that, so everything in between. So
Girl, you are powerful. You
praise
are
God.
powerful. You are encouraging. And I just want to continue. Well, I want to encourage you to keep going because you're saving lives. And that's what my intent is with my mental health advocacy, because I was a recipient of um, being in a suicidal space, a very dark space. So I know what it's like to use your experience to help other people. Initially,
Yeah.
it's scary because you're afraid of the judgment, and or the perception of how people are going to see you or what have you. But I want to tell you that I think that you are an amazing person. You are very encouraging, and I really can see you saving other young girls who may not have a mom or someone in the community to share this type of information with. You never know who's watching,
Mm-hmm.
you never know who's paying attention, and you never know whose life you touch. So I
Yes.
just want to encourage you to keep going. I am going to start being a part of all of your events. I told you that last night. I'm looking
Yes.
forward to it. Like, I'm getting my outfit ready. Girlfriends, we was in a group chat, and I told them, they were excited. They was like, I would love to go. Like, and I'm like, all right,
Awesome.
I'm going to get y'all tickets. Don't even worry about it, because
Awesome.
I just want us to all begin to support one another and uplift each other. And I think that your story is very encouraging and uplifting. And I thank you for coming on to Mind Matters with Kay and sharing your experience.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
No problem. Is there any parting words that you would like to give to the audience, or do you think that you're good?
I think we did. I think we did good. I think people, just outside of just reiterating some of the things that I said, don't let if HIV is your diagnosis, whatever it is your diagnosis may be, don't let it define you. It doesn't have to define you. There's so much more to you. God created you to be so much more than just your diagnosis. So go ahead and live, honey. It's okay.
Yes, I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank
Lynette.
you.
I appreciate it. I would love to have you back on sometime in the future. And you can give us a HIV 101 class.
Perfect. I would
Take
love
the
it.
second class, girl.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And thank you to all my viewers. Until next time on My Matters with Kay.